Hello? Hi. Welcome. Welcome to another stream, another art stream. I'm continuing doing the 6 fan art challenge. Today I'm going to be working on the 4th character commission, Mr. Bean. Not a character I was, well, I know who he is, but not someone I was expecting to necessarily draw. That one was definitely the wild card. Although, anyway, um, I'm stuck in quarantine just like everyone else, and this is just a way for me to record myself committing to doing something. I've done a couple of streams so far. The very first one, where I worked on Yellow Diamond, appears to have been lost for the ages. The others I've managed to save and record onto my YouTube page. Well, one of them, the gaming YouTube page that shares the same name as this Twitch account. Oh, hold on. Okay, all right. Mouse wasn't working for a bit. Okay, so since the last stream, I did work a little more on XJ9, mostly, honestly, because she isn't a very complicated character. Uh, I've worked more on the outlines. Definitely need to touch up a bit more. I've added color just to honestly just to help me visualize where to place where to place the outlines a little more, make them go a little more smoothly. But yeah, she was definitely she's definitely the simplest of the characters that I'm working on, which was a nice needed break from the relatively complicated Monarch butterfly mask on Metis from Persona 3. But today we're going to work on Mr. Bean. I've already placed the slightly horrifying collage of the character down here. But before we do anything, before we start, I'm going to start doing a warm-up. Because I'm drawing a non-fictional cartoon character for which I'd be comfortable with stylizing to a degree, and even then, I've called myself a mid-tier illustrator. Uh, Someone who is better at drawing compared to those who can't draw at all, but not so often enough that this is a career of mine. I am not. I took a couple classes, but I have no interest in actually pursuing illustration as a job. Anyway, because I'm drawing Mr. Bean, he did have for the record, Mr. Bean does have a cartoon version of himself. I I didn't want to bother with that. I wanted to try to do like a life drawing of him. Um, and okay, so because I want to try to draw relatively close to, uh, like I'll stylize him. I'll probably make him a bit of a cartoon, but because of that particular choice of trying to draw a quote unquote real person, for the warm up, I wanted to draw some still life photos of real people to get myself warmed up. Uh, and in order to do that, while everyone is stuck in quarantine, I am using a what is this? Well, I'm using a book that it has an assortment of models in costumes, but I'm mostly only going to focus on relatively expressive poses. Unfortunately, I know I have more than one book like this, but I can't find the other one, which is I think has better poses, more expressive poses, and B is a much smaller book that I could more conveniently hold my hand onto. Uh, yeah, this isn't this isn't working as well as I would have liked. Let's form. You yeah, I didn't think so. You didn't Also, if it's not super clear, it soon will be. Uh I'm not that proficient with Photoshop. I know it well enough to draw with it, not but not really to I don't know, manipulate photos, clean clean up stills if I need it. I had to put the book down that I'm using just so I could reshape the character. Okay. So normally when I do a warm up, I try to dedicate at least maybe 30 minutes and then try to go to my real subject for the remainder hour and a half to 2 hours. Uh, and I don't want to break that. I don't want to break that 2 hour. Sorry, I don't want to break that half-hour warm up. But I want to draw a couple of quick life drawing poses. Probably should. I maybe should work on faces, but to be honest, since since my drawing of Mr. Bean will mostly just be his head and upper body, like all the rest of this challenge. Uh, this is a great opportunity for me to just focus on colorful full body shots. Ish. This feat could go a lot better. And unfortunately, because I'm not like this huge diehard Mr. Bean fan, uh, I'm a bit at a loss of what to talk about as far as like stream of consciousness is concerned. Like when I was talking about XJ9, I got to talk a little bit my own childhood nostalgia. I got to talk about Metabots, robot characters, how I'd potentially bring back uh, XJ9 for like a retooled, reimagined like sequel series, or even just a reboot altogether. Uh, But man, it's a Mr. Bean is a comedic, silent, mute character who expresses himself solely through slapstick body language. All right. I mean, that's funny. I can talk about how. Man, I don't remember the name of the actor who plays Mr. Bean, but I'll tell you that he kind of, some of the photos that I've got reminded me of Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. I definitely don't think it's intentional on anyone's part, but there's a similarity I feel, and I guess the success of both characters. I mean, whether you like the Big Bang Theory or not, it's unquestionable that it was a successful series. I've seen glimpses of young Sheldon though. That series seems decent. Seems pretty good. I wonder if it really was just the laugh track and the family sitcom like setup that was more not like annoying, but like let's move on to another character. Shoot. Yeah, I'm also I know I've mentioned this at some point. Uh I'm using I'm using like a touchpad mouse pad. I don't quite have the money to have like a screen, a fancy little screen. So there's a bit of a there's a bit of a dissonance between me trying to react to my pencil, well, my stylus touching a pad while I look at the screen that's not down below me, it's in front of me. Uh, I know, I'm pretty sure every digital artist has started like this and then just moved on to getting a screen, which is just better. It's so much better. But for now, this is all I got. I'm just, okay, I'm just trying to choose a pose from the next book. This one is relatively speaking it's not a full body one. This book is kind of failing me with full body life models. I was kind of hoping this would be a greater opportunity to I don't know, add more color to my streams. Okay. So the pose I'm using uh it's it's a schoolgirl with her hands up. Uh Honestly, it's a little hard to describe the pose. It's just kind of like I want to use the word twee, but that might be the wrong use of that term. It's not a squee either. Although I could take the opportunity to make it a squee. Sometimes I'll glance over at another YouTube recorded art stream, and admittedly, I've mentioned that one should try to avoid getting uh, discouraged by constantly comparing yourself to other streams, but I was more interested in like the format of the video, like if it was the entire drawing, if it was sped up, there's no commentary, just music, and yeah, it was basically those things. That is to say, uh, just a focus on it was just a focus on the art. It was completely fast forwarded. Probably took. I consider myself to be a slow illustrator, so I suspect the full length of this fast forwarded 7 to 10 minute video probably took the span of 2 to 4 hours maybe, and that's basically a full body shot. And I'm I don't know. I'm easily impressed with other people's artwork. Uh, to the the possible fear of jealousy that I just gotta power through. You can't work your way to become a better illustrator if you just don't illustrate. Period. You gotta do it. You gotta eat your vegetables. Hmm. I'm getting a very small Katamari Damacy feel based solely on the relatively realistic looking uh, eyes next to the cartoonish everything else, in part because nothing else exists. So yeah, the model that I'm referencing, it kind of looks like she's pulling her pigtails. Which I'm making look like horns. Uh, Also, in the case of her right arm, it actually juts out this way. Maybe I'll just have her do like a quick. I've said this before, and I'll say it again because I tend to repeat myself. Uh, I always hope that there's some kind of magic trick to drawing, to illustrating, that I I know there are some people who they think they can't draw, so why bother? Well, that's not true. Anyone can draw. Uh, but my question, I'm just instead of pigtails, I'm just gonna have her have like large, like a large Sailor Mars flowing hair. I can give her a big frumpy shirt. Um, like people will watch someone draw and they go, "Oh man, I can't draw. I can't do this." They must have something going on. They must have something special, like some kind of, well, sometimes like like a gene or some sort of weird genetic, like weird eugenic angle of, well, they were born to draw. Like, no, no, that's not how drawing works. Uh, so I don't think like that. But what I do think is, as I'm drawing and I watch other people draw, I keep going. What is the one thing that I'm not getting? And that if I just got it, then I'd be able to. I guess. You know what it is? It's leveling up. Uh, I'm at a decent. I'm at a moderate level of drawing powers, if I can describe it like that. I'm like level 50 or something, out of like 120 or something, like huge mark, and uh, and the only way to level up is, admittedly, it's through drawing, but the only way to level up is through like learning special techniques, learning skills, or that's the way that I'm kind of formulating it in my head. What are other people learning to make the process easier, or at least towards something uh, like not even it's not even like a school. It's more like I want to know the hotkeys, the shortcuts on the keyboard to figure out. Well, the best comparison I have is like editing. When I took an editing course in college, the biggest obstacle wasn't learning to edit, because I'm decently good at editing videos. I aced the entire course. But the biggest hurdle was learning to use a Mac and then translating what the hotkeys were when it would show up in the instructions. All right, let's do one last warm up. Okay, all right. I don't know what that was. I suddenly burped something all the way up into my nose. Uh, which is super debilitating. Huh. No, no, no. You know what? There's a cover shot I've never seen before. In the book, it's still in the same book, but I'll use it. This is also a full body shot. I hope I'm not getting sick. Okay, yeah, now's not the time to get sick. Uh, you know what? Let's erase the blue girl for now, just so I don't worry about getting distracted by the overlap. When I see other artists, I see way fewer uh like skeletal work, and maybe it's like a matter of confidence that I do not share. Like the way I draw, it gets the job done. Yeah, yeah, you're this is technically drawing. I sound so like dismissive about my own ability. Um, I just like using the red example. I have so many circles that it's hard not to eventually get to the destination that you're going for. Model kind of just drops her arm there, but her hand has this sort of curved. You know, if I'm sure there must be a like book of JoJo poses uh, that would sort of emulate what I might be going for, or at least maybe I don't know. Certainly, the success of the series is enough to want and justify that kind of sale. Okay, leg kind of juts out. Wasn't really expecting to do what's now kind of looking like a red versus green. Whoops. One of these days I should probably just, uh, as a warm up, try to do like a self portrait. That way I wouldn't try to use a reference, although, I'd want it to be good, and so that would probably end up slowing down working on the final project. Now I'm just kind of focusing on the contour lines. admittedly, maybe part of the problem I'm having with like trying to come up with a topic for stream of consciousness is admittedly like world events that's going on right now. It's it's not it's not really a format that fits into like an Arch stream. I don't think I'm a jerk for not bringing it up, but I I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I just kind of hope that everyone during this time of 2020, which, like, okay, side note, I was really hoping 2020 was gonna be good. And it might still be good for me, you know? But 2020 is a very clearly bad year for a lot of people. Uh, the pandemic being one of the reasons for it to be a bad year. But surprisingly, only one of the reasons. The pigtails are now just reminding me of Soul Eater, and as far as stream of consciousness is concerned, that's a series that happened, and one that I kinda wish had a revival, like Fullmetal Alchemist did, which is definitely a subject, but I feel like is not, unless I were drawing like Alphonse. I feel like it's best saved for another time. But I don't think I'll be doing any like Soul Eater for a while, so I'll just say I definitely would like a return to it. Not that I finished watching the series, but because I not that I finished reading the original manga. I have finished watching the anime, and the anime is partly the reason why I'd kind of like to see a redo. The anime was pretty good, except honestly for the ending. Wasn't a fan of the very last episode, and that's bizarre. That's bizarre. That's the very last episode, where I'm like, ah, man, you're so close to the finish line, and then you had like what? Not one, but two different Deus Ex Machinas. I mean, at least one of them was thematically appropriate to the show. You know, uh, literally challenging courage to punch the physical manifestation of fear. I get that. Power, friendship, anime stuff. That's fine. But the other one. I'm not saying the other one was not a impossibility, but it just seemed A, unnecessary for the character, and B, unnecessary for the story because it didn't even do anything. All it did was stall for time. Time that could have been spent on, I don't know, another beloved Soul Eater character. I admittedly can't Can't name any because it's been long enough. I know about. I remember Death the Kid, Black Star, Maka, Soul, Tsubaki. I don't think I remember the twins' names. That's on me though. Okay, let's put her here. All right. It's definitely a colorful warm up, and one that I might have spent too much time on, but yeah. Let's uh, let's begin this monstrosity. I think I can say with some degree of confidence that I wasn't looking. I mean, there's one that I'm looking forward to less to draw than Mr. Bean. And that's definitely. That's going to be the next one. Alright. I've got at least one viewer. But, alright. Let's get this started. For anyone just popping in, 6 fan art challenge. I've drawn Yellow Diamond from Steven Universe, Metis from Persona 3, XJ9 or Jenny Wakeman from My Life as a Teenage Robot. Moving on to Mr. Bean today. I just finished the warm-up. And I don't know why I'm kind of partly stalling for time. So let's just try to jump into it. I have a vague idea of how I want to pose Mr. Bean. Though his face on the left is probably the face I'm going to be using as the main, like, reference and inspiration. I have a few ideas of what I might do, but yeah, this time, unlike the warm-up, relative slow and steady. Slow and steady wins this race. I don't know what it is about Mr. Bean that caused me to be, oh no, wild card. Well, maybe I'll get another character. Maybe I'll have more than 6 recommendations, and this can be one of the ones I drop from the docket. And of course, I only got 5. I've tentatively chosen a 6th to draw, but I only got 5 requests otherwise. Now the 6th one I want to draw because it's fun, and I'll get to it. But for now, but yeah. So I only got 5 requests, so I wasn't going to get a replacement. And B, Mr. Bean isn't even the worst selection. Wasn't the worst request. So I kind of want Mr. Bean's hand to be up to be covering his mouth in a sort of shush motion. Um, but that's useful. It's useful to kind of jot it, but it's not going to help me right now. Because I got to figure out what Mr. Bean's face is going to look like first. And obviously, it's going to be a closed mouth because he's kind of a muted character with a big silly grin. I don't think like his cartoon version of himself doesn't have like the Looney Tunes Chuck Jones style like eyelashes, which I think is a missed opportunity. Absolutely, I'm gonna give this guy eyelashes. Okay, I might be working too hard on his build. I also, I think he hunches. I think he's a huncher. But yeah, alright. I gotta ignore the mouth for now. Because we gotta get the face done. And I've said this before, that my favorite part about drawing is always the face. And the only problem about drawing the face, my favorite part, is that I get so consumed by the desire of just focusing on the face, I don't get anything else done. I don't really get the body done. I don't, you know, if I get so wrapped up in the design of a character, sorry, the facial expression of the character, the rest of the body never gets done. He's got big old ears. It's all just a template. He's got... Not that I need to draw like a faded space for a forehead, but Mr. Bean's got himself a big forehead. A lot of expressive wrinkles. Yeah, this face in particular, the bottom left with the teddy bear, is the one that reminds me of Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. You know what? I might have to draw Mr. Bean's head taller. Like, stretch it out. To give him, like, this elasticity to his expression. Has this big old dopey grin. And you already, like, some of these lines now are making him look like a clown. That happens. That happens during the. I want to describe it as the discovering process, where you have all these faded lines that help you to guide where the drawing's going to go, but also helps you discover what the final product's going to end up looking like. So if I were so inclined, this entire circle would be like a clown makeup eyeshadow. This circle. But it's actually a guide to help me figure out where his eyebrows are going to be, where his eye is relative to that, so on and so forth. It's like a really... It's not lazy, but it's a very kind of slow art class. Alright, because I've made his ear that big on the side that should have the least amount of exposed ear, I gotta make his right ear, that is to say the ear that's on the left side, way bigger to justify the one that I have that's supposed to be hiding. Alright, I gotta figure out his eyes. They kind of like bug out. Yeah. I get a lot more. I want to not. I don't know about defensive, but worried about uh let's get rid of the lash for now. I get defensive about doing life drawings because I put a lot more stake and standards into it. But because it's the fan art challenge, I think I'm allowed to. No one's expecting necessarily one life drawing. Some people are gonna maybe wonder why. It'd be weird if he was the only like realistic looking character I drew, and everyone else I kind of drew quote unquote my style. That's another thing. I'm so fascinated by other artists like uh discovering what their uh have artists with set styles. Um and I'm sure if someone doesn't know how to draw, they might be looking at this and they might be going, well, no, I see what your style is, Simon. You have this very clear so and so looks like inspired by whatever. You know, it's a style to you, and even I can kind of recognize that I have something. But man, I wish I could like channel it. It's like being told, "Whoa, Simon, you can breathe. You can breathe fire." I can. Holy crap! All right, I better use this, and then you never know how to use it. You cannot actually control this ability. It just sort of happens. You know, I'm getting a weird vibe. Not like a creepy clown vibe, but uh like you were this I'm reminded of like I'm doing a portrait of someone else, but I don't know who I'm being reminded of. It's not like Gilbert Gottfried or something, but it's definitely not Mr. Bean. That's not the vibe I'm getting. You know what? I This is somewhat relevant, somewhat. So one of my courses, one of my illustrative courses that I took, um, was a political comics course where I was basically tasked to, draw a political cartoon, get a sense of what goes into drawing caricatures of real people. And at the time, our prime minister was Canadian. As a reminder, our Canadian prime minister was Stephen Harper. Not as not as definitely not a popular person in in Canada. Not certainly not as popular as our current prime minister Justin Trudeau, although even that his popularity is kind of up to debate. But I think it's safe to say he's more popular than Stephen Harper. I think that's a fair comment I can make. Man, who is this guy that I'm drawing? He looks so familiar. I think it's also the bald head. Who is this guy? I'm not. The way I'm building this up, it feels like I'm being creeped out by my own drawing. Like, oh my god, he's gonna eat me. Certainly, the shushing motion I want to give him later is not going to help that. You know, he kind of has a caricature version of Mr. Rogers feel going on. He has this very friendly. I mean, you know what? I will. Oh, all right. You know what? Before I really start going into, oh man, I am a good artist, I'll try to go back to my point about the political cartoon caricature. Okay, I had to try to draw Stephen Harper. I tried to draw it was a political cartoon concerning the Alberta tar sands, which is still kind of a thing, and to be honest, I still don't fully grasp it. But I drew a political cartoon with him as a contestant on Jeopardy, so I had to learn to draw Alex Trebek. I gave him a mustache. He stopped having a mustache a long time ago, but as far as I'm concerned, Alex Trebek's mustache is so iconic, I had to give it to him. I drew Alex Trebek, Stephen Harper, Barack Obama, and I think I drew Barack Obama. I think. But I also drew. Oh shoot, I can't remember his name. Anyway, for the most part, none of them. The thing about my Stephen Harper, which is why I brought this up, is that my Stephen Harper, my teacher said, looked too much like Bill Clinton. It didn't look enough like Stephen Harper. And I think there's an argument to say that there are enough similarities between Bill Clinton and Stephen Harper, white guy, bleached white hair. Well, not bleached white hair, but very like platinum white gray hair, regardless of age. Yeah, okay, so the thing about Stephen Harper, I think I was having trouble capturing, not that this was brought up by my teacher's criticism. I basically agree with his assessment that my attempt at trying to draw Stephen Harper, he looked too much like Bill Clinton. And I would say that Bill Clinton has a taller rectangular face, and Stephen Harper's is boxier like a square. And the other thing that wouldn't have come across in a black and white cartoon is that Stephen Harper has these dead eyes. and that's hard to recreate. Um, because you kind of need color and then the sudden absence of color in his eyes. Like he has, I think, these really faded blue eyes, but they're so faded. I don't know what you would. Man, what does this look like? He does he's he's at least gone back and forth from looking creepy to really sweet. Okay, I'm looking at his mole. Yeah, I have a similar mole. It's sort of faded, but it's the kind of faded mole that I'm wondering if cartoonists would give it to him, the little mole, or if they would ignore it. Uh, Jeez, he really does look like a celebrity, but not necessarily Mr. Bean. I wonder if I need to squint his eyes more. It might also just be the kind of smile, like it kind of like... Whoops. It kind of droops at the end in these like hooks. That gives him like a... I want to describe it like a mischievous smile. I don't know if people would draw the bags under his eyes though, if that's part of the Mr. Bean characteristic. It's mostly just the goofy smile. That's the main thing. But man, see the advantage of knowing whom I'm accidentally drawing. Like, oh, that looks like Joe Pesci. Uh, if I knew, then I'd be able to go, oh, okay, and Joe Pesci has blank, so I just need to avoid blank, and he will, like I said, he kind of looks like Mr. Rogers. Okay, so what do I do to make him not look like Mr. Rogers? Color will help, but that will only go so far. He kind of looks like uh I've squished up the face. Um I'm getting vibes of my grandfather as well. Oh, hello. His ear kind of jets out even farther than that. Whenever I do a life drawing like this, in a certain color, in this case orange, uh, I kind of think to myself, man, this is so pretty, and now I'm gonna ruin it by putting outlines and kind of putting effort. Uh, it, it will, for me, it will look less pretty until I can make it pretty again. But it always comes across as this long journey before it gets to be pretty again. There's a temptation to just choose a color for each characterization, for each character that I'm drawing. Orange for Mr. Bean. I don't know why I chose orange. Well, okay, I wanted a nice bright color for my light pencil strokes. Yeah, I gotta I know what my grandfather currently looks like. He's in his 90s. He's doing really well for himself, considering, well, a lot. Um, it helps that he basically kept. He was going to like his swimming pool, his local like the gym swimming pool, for presumably seniors. In his 70s, kept swimming. I think he only maybe stopped in his 80s, but it's paid dividends. He's still kicking. He's still doing all right for himself. Um, but so Mr. Bean does not look like my grandfather, but this version that I've drawn reminds me of a version of my grandfather, just not the present day one. So weird. I think what might also be bumming me out a little bit is that, not that Mr. Bean, as a character, like Mr. Bean is sort of a clumsy Mr. Magoo-esque character, but unlike Mr. Magoo, who I keep kind of giving him a Inspector Gadget affectation. Ah, you've done it again. Clumsy sort. If there's a crime to be solved, he saves the day by accident. Uh, but there is like a weird. It's subtle. It's not a huge like defining feature of Mr. Bean, because Mr. Bean is like a fairly sweet character. He wouldn't have endured as long as he has if he was supposed to be kind of creepy or scary. But I bring that up because I think that's what I might be missing in my kind of interpretation of my drawing of Mr. Bean. He's really, this drawing of him so far is really sweet looking. And so he doesn't look like Mr. Bean because of that. And I don't want the Bill Clinton fiasco again for my of my political drawing cartoon of no, it's supposed to be someone else. Oh, don't know why that happened. Like I'm gonna write, hey, person on Twitter who suggested Mr. Bean. Thank you. Here it is. Here's Mr. Bean, and I don't want the response to be, oh wow, it's really this this guy's really sweet. He doesn't really look like Mr. Bean though. Like, ah, I knew it. I knew he didn't look like Mr. Bean. Oh, but I'm trying so hard. Should I? Like, I'm also kind of getting like a Gilbert Gottfried. I'm getting a lot of like combined, sweet looking, older older men combined. Sweet, not to be confused with, awesome that I would typically use the word for. I mean, like, very gentle, very kind looking. And the thing is, I don't, I don't consider Mr. Bean to be that. He's not a jerk, but he's not. He wouldn't be depicted as being. Uh, I don't think his cartoons usually depict cartoons. His the sketches typically depict him as being like. Uh, I don't think he's kind. He's not. He's not evil, but he's not. He's not actively cruel. but he does act in his own self-interest. Taking a water break. Actually, okay. So the photo on the right that I'm using, he kind of looks like he has a sort of hook nose. I I guess I guess he does. All right. Hmm. I think I don't know. I'm wondering if I should raise his eyebrows. Not his eyebrows, sorry, his forehead. Which would either mean... That might actually mean lowering his eyebrows. Or it means raising his hairline. But I don't think I need to give him a bigger head. Or a taller one. Okay. My Mr. Bean 1 layer has paid a lot of dividends. Usually the darker focus lines end up being the second layer, and then the black outline is the third layer, and then colors are a million different layers. But now I'm gonna need a different layer to sort out the placement of Mr. Bean's hand that I want in the frame. Let's see. This is definitely one of those instances where I start looking at my own hand to use as a reference, but the hand that I'm using for Mr. Bean is my dominant drawing hand, so I'm kind of stuck. So let's, similar to my warm-up, let's just give him very simple, rough block hands. If I didn't know any better, it almost kind of looked like he's asking for like a pinky swear. Okay. So his finger is too far from the center of his mouth, so let's whoops. Nope. Nope. Yeesh. Can't mess this up. Nope. That kind of looks like he's picking his nose. I don't want to open his mouth for the actual, like, the position of a shush, because Mr. Bean rarely, if ever, opens his mouth. But I still want to... I want to do something more active than what I've been doing for the first two drawings. The first two drawings, even though I might add an arm for Yellow Diamond, once I started drawing Metis, I realized that I was feeling bad because I was copping out, and one of the requests for a character, I plan on, to a degree, copying out as much as possible because of how complicated that request is. But I didn't. But I wanted to take advantage of this exercise. I wanted to make more active looking characters. So for when I started drawing XJ9, I put in the effort to give her like a sort of flight or fist bump. And similarly, I wanted to add something to Mr. Bean. But this is tough. Like, just finding the placement of the hand. It would almost be better for me to draw his his other hand and then just flipping it so that I have a reference. Drawing can be tough sometimes. And by sometimes I mean right now. In part because I'm kind of lazy. There's a reason that even though a casual observer might see the directions that I've gone, or the skill that I am displaying, would probably convince some that I absolutely should be doing something career-wise with this, but there's a reason why I have not. It's very labor extensive, and I know that the phrase "do what you love," and you'll never work a day in your life. I know that adage has gotten some heat for, yeah, no, work is work, even if you love it. And I agree with that. But I would also want to do a work that I would enjoy that is relatively easy to me. So I was gonna say I find writing to be easier than drawing. Maybe not. I do get up to more writing than I do drawing. But I don't know. It'd be kind of funny if I got more dividends, more out of drawing than the years that I've spent focusing on writing. If this turned out to be the the let's say the overlooked talent that I wasn't expecting to pay the bills because I got too tired of it. Although if I get used to drawing digitally, I might want to focus on getting back to... I have a friend who I've drawn like birthday cards for, but I haven't done it for like the last couple of years. Some of it was because I was busy, genuinely. One of them was because I was depressed. And wouldn't you know it, the one that I was kind of like depressed out of for was also the probably the worst year, one of the worst years of my life, and yet the thing that made it the worst year of my life didn't happen yet. I was just kind of like, whatevers. I didn't care. I mean, I cared. I just didn't have any energy. And I was attending class. I don't know how that happened, that I was that... I hope it's not like a weight thing, because admittedly I was heavier at the time. Or at least I was about to be in the ballpark of getting much heavier. And I don't like the... because it feels a little like retroactively fat shamey to be like, oh, well, the reason why you were depressed, Simon, was because you weighed that amount. And now you weigh this amount. And that's why you're not depressed anymore. Well, I'm not. I'm just better. There's a difference. There's a huge difference between, between not being depressed and just being better. And not better as in, haha, I'm better than you. That's definitely not the better I'm talking about. I'm talking functional, but aware. But I also know that maybe some of that is a... what's the word? It's somewhat self-deprecating to be like, yeah, that happened to me. Oh man, my life sucks. That kind of thing. And I don't want to be self-deprecating because that... my experience is that that'll make it worse. You got to look at the positives. Which is why I can say in great confidence, even though I think people are better at illustrating than I am, I'm not a bad illustrator. So I do take some degree of comfort in that. I just also don't think I'd want to necessarily do this for a living. Although, during this uncertain financial times, maybe now's a good time to do commissions. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry if you like dropped in and you weren't expecting like this stream of consciousness, like somewhat of a downer psychological life observation stuff. I think it's because to a degree I have nothing to say about Mr. Bean, and also because I mentioned that he kind of reminded me of a version of my grandfather. And I haven't seen him in a while. Granted, not that I was a... I love my grandfather. I'm not a fan of like the trips to see him. But like I said earlier, you gotta eat your vegetables. You gotta do this. But the reason I haven't seen him for a while is the same reason everyone hasn't seen theirs in a while. and the same reason why it becomes... Oh, shoot, the spooky music in the background is not helping. The current global events that in Canada has particularly hit certain retirement homes more than others. So, whoops. Admittedly, I might be using this layer wrong, or I'm working too much on the outlines. Gonna try to lower via like an outline, lower Mr. Bean's eyebrows. Makes it look a little thicker, but that might be the direction I need to fix my perceived mistakes on Mr. Bean. I might have to... I hope it's... Like, I know there's no, like, code of honor, code of, you know, the artist's commission to be so reliant on references. I hope that my drawing of Mr. Bean is different enough, but also recognizably Mr. Bean. I might have forgot what I was going to say concerning my grandpa, but it was also very much related to current events, so probably best all the same that I not that not, that I kind of avoid the subject, kind of, and just stick to either observations of the craft or anything funny that I can think of. It's somewhat ironic, I think, that I'm thinking of relatively melancholic stuff while drawing Mr. Bean, who is I was gonna say an unquestionably funny guy. Well, maybe you're someone who doesn't find Mr. Bean funny. Okay, fair. But he's a comedy character. Like you might not find him funny, but he's intended for comedy. So it's weird that in my effort to draw Mr. Bean, I'm talking about, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to see my grandpa again. Yeah, I was depressed. I had to battle through it. I didn't really battle through it. Well, I didn't do nothing. Yeah, I think the hook smile helps. It's just so wrinkly. Like he looks like I've taken a commission to draw a person. I mean, I have essentially, but like this character, can you? Hey, I'm doing the 6 fan art challenge. What do you want me to draw? I want you to draw Yellow Diamond. I want you to draw Spider-Man. I want you to draw my grandpa. Okay. Well, request is a request. Any landing you can walk away from, ADW. That's kind of what this is. Just drawing. I suppose he is. He might be someone's grandpa. I wonder if he does. If he did for his kids or, uh, provided he has any. I don't remember enough of the actor, let alone can I say his name because I don't remember it. Uh, I wonder if he pulls the Mr. Bean routine for like family, or if that's actually where it started from. Yeah, I think what I'm gonna have to do, because I'm putting way too much emphasis on uh, the outline now, as opposed to waiting till I reached the third layer, is I'm probably gonna have to work on coloring his face first, the color phase, before working on the final outline. I still kind of want to give him like the Chuck Jones eyelashes. I might do it, but it'll have to be after, probably after the coloring phase. Also, don't know how much to emphasize on the bags. He's also kind of giving me a Leisure Suit Larry vibe. Hmm. I think one of these eyes is too. These eyes are misaligned. One of them is too high, or one of them is too low. Uh, what do I do? All right, let's. Okay, link these two. Let's try raising this eye. I mean, I guess it's better. It doesn't look much different, admittedly. But at least it's not obviously misaligned. Uh, I don't know. Let's try lowering. his right eye by just a tiny amount. Oops, too far. Oh! Oh, I know what he looks like. He looks like, shoot, what's his name? I gotta look this up. Give me a second. Leslie Nielsen. He kind of looks like Leslie Nielsen. I mean, he also does kind of look like Mr. Bean. But he also kind of reminds me of Leslie Nielsen. He reminds me of a lot. Okay, I'm gonna try. Well, actually, this is probably what the. Never mind, never mind. I was gonna raise his, I was gonna raise his, forehead by moving the very faded hairline piece that I've already drawn, but I can just raise it with a new line art. Also getting a Smeagol vibe. You know, Andy Serkis. You know, it's possible that there's a lot of white actors who just look the same. Or at least look the same when you try to draw them. Yeah. Although, you know what? Since I already spent so much time uh, looking up Leslie Nielsen's name, it would probably, you know, behoove me for this stream slightly dedicated to Mr. Bean. I probably should look up Mr. Bean's actor's name. That seems only fair. Oh, okay. Rowan Atkinson. I would have said Richard. Rowan Atkinson. Okay. I kind of want to say thank you for your service. But I don't I imagine he wouldn't accept a thank you for your service because it's just a role. One that I'm sure he loves. And maybe grew sick of and then loves again. Okay. Yeah, alright, try... Let's focus on color before working on the final outline. Okay, he's got, he's white, but he might actually not be that pale. Well, okay, this is the first color layer, so it's okay to be a little darker. Oh no, well, it's okay to be darker or lighter, and then just apply another coat, as it were. Really gotta fix his hand though. I'll probably have to. I'll try to fix his hand off the stream, just cause then I can, I don't know, take a photo of my hand and use it as a better reference. You know, one technique I do see in streams a lot is completely reversing the image to better feel out the symmetry of the image. And that's not really something that I'm doing. In part because I don't think my mind has truly understood the advantages of that. I think I have done that. Uh, okay. Layer. Oops. Okay, he's got himself a gray suit, but it's not just gray, it's... corduroy? No, I don't think that's what it's called. Oh well. For now, stick to a tanned gray suit, and then worry about whether or not I want to say cheat, use like a filter or layer to kind of create the same effect. Well, let's make this a tad bigger. You know what? I don't like how dark that is. Like, I know it doesn't matter, because it's just like the first coat. But it kind of matters to me right now. Let's also have this layer be under the skin layer. So I don't have too much to worry about when I'm erasing. Okay. Let's take care of the border that I've drawn over, because I want him in the frame. I suppose it would be somewhat fitting to have Mr. Bean like, whoa, clumsy. He falls out of the frame, but I'm not that confident in my Mr. Bean. Oh, you know what? Let's color Mr. Bean's eyes with the same color as his coat. Why am I not erasing? What's going on? What have I clicked? Oh, there it is. I still have a box down there. Okay. Shrink this down. Like, reusing, I want to say color assets is, this feels like a video game kind of cheat for, designing characters. Like, it's the same color palette. He looks like he should be wearing a bow tie. But he has a very thin tie. I might have to... He kind of looks like a Doctor Who character. Like, a doctor. Unfortunately, I have personally not seen enough of Doctor Who to narrow down or make a specific comparison. Okay, third color. Bit of black hair, which mostly looks dark gray, but it's, to be fair, it's a very specific, it's a different shade of gray than the jacket. That's the important thing. Even that might be too much. Yeah, when it comes to the color black, you kind of have to, you don't really choose jet black. You start with a shade of gray. The shade is really up to you. Like if I go up to Metis for a second. Metis is basically an entire, color scheme wise, she's an entire black character to counter Aegis's white. Like, Metis is coded as a dark black character, but Official artwork gives her like dark shades of blue. Her chest, I've given it a sort of uh, a red spectrum, like a sort of dark purple, mahogany. Is that the correct? But yeah, it's I've given it a red. Eventually, I'm going to add a lot more black to it, like just like heavy shadows or stuff, or something. Um, but just for like I guess like a coloring tutorial, if you want nice highlights, you don't just necessarily go for jet black unless you're doing like a black and white heavy ink and cross hatching. But I'm reminded of characters uh, like Venom from the '90s Spider-Man cartoon, where he wasn't just the black suit Spider-Man. He also had these blue highlights to the. They gave these blue and sometimes orangey red, pink highlights. Yeah, I should probably go for a kind of brown gray, but I don't want it to be. Let's try this. It's got to be different from his suit color, though. It might not look different enough from the suit color, but at least I'm starting with a layer. You know what? Not gonna worry about coloring in the lines. I can erase. I can erase it later. Yeah, this is giving me an opportunity to see what a higher forehead would look like, and if it would look better. All right, let's go for the tie. It's pretty bright. Uh Depending on how much shadow I apply, I don't think I would need to change the tie much. Though I might have to. Yeah, not fill out the entire space, and in fact maybe erase some that I've already made to give him his weirdly thin tie. Now, all things considered, I think I've gotten a handle on Mr. Bean. Oh, as much of a handle, uh, considering that uh, as much of a handle for a caricature of a character that I think I might have gotten wrong. Again, kind of looks like Leslie Nielsen. And this guy's got a lot of grayscale going on. Not strictly talking about my characterization. I mean, if I were looking at this like a Mega Man sprite, it kind of looks like I'm giving him a lot of overlapping. He looks like a gray man. Right. So he has kind of like a uh, 5 o'clock shadow. This kind of makes him look like a characterization of a drunk. Still, it helps a little. Like, I know some of these are really clean shaven looking Rowan Atkinsons. I think this is still the right way to go. Still just like a first preliminary layer of coloring though, so there's going to be plenty of shading and erasing to go down, to go later down, because it kind of just looks like I'm giving him, well, I am giving him shadow, a 5 o'clock shadow. Um, oh, uh, what does this look like? It helps, but I gotta give him like, well, I'll give it to him now. The I'll erase his bottom lip. But some of these photos have like way more pronounced lips. So I wanna give him some red. I'll make it the same layer as the tie. I might regret that. But let's lower the opacity. Well, alright, let's draw. Okay, now I know the layer's not going to switch on me. Okay, not enough. Oh, alright, I know what's going on. Yeah, I need a new lip layer. That happens. Yeah, the red tie layer is under the face color layers. So when I'm trying to draw the red, I'm drawing beneath his face. You can't even see it. Now we should be able to see it. A little too much. Let's shrink the size of it. Now I'm getting a sock monkey vibe. Definitely still a sad clown kind of. He almost looks good without it, but I don't know. He has it. He has brighter lips than the. Man, I almost just want to like leave this sort of pastel looking thing alone, but I definitely need to. Oh, which one's this? Okay. Yeah, I will inevitably eventually add the black outline. Whoops. Ah, shoot. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. Oh, okay. I know what was freaking me out. All right, I was erasing, and it was coming. It was showing the orange from the underlayer when I wasn't expecting orange, so it freaked me out. Oh no, I have orange selected. No, no, no. That's the layer beneath the Yeah, no, this is coming along. Um, alright, just for fun. Let's... let's give Mr. Bean a little heart. A little Valentine heart. Doesn't have to stay there. But it's a good way to end the stream. Since we're coming around that time. And I know that you know, it only lasts as long as I want it to, but it's getting hot and I can only talk for so long, and also because I haven't really figured out what I was stammering for so long. But visually I think I got surprisingly more done than I originally thought. I definitely need to work on this hand. Oh, let's also, because I don't know when exactly I'll get back to Mr. Bean. Okay. Yeah, this is all right. It's definitely the direction that I'd like to go on. I just have to I definitely have to fix the hand. That's the first thing that I need to fix. Uh do I round out his face more? That's a little hard to super process in my mind. But and then I need to finalize if his hair is at the relatively correct length, or if I need to give him more forehead space or not. Still, it's a very collage. It's a very beautiful collage and a kind of high school crush. Oh, I hope Mr. Bean notices me. Kind of like stalker wall. It's it's cute, funny, but also very weird. Uh, which, you know what? Maybe that's Mr. Bean. Maybe Mr. Bean is cute but very weird. Um, so yeah, that was that was this is a lot. Um, yeah, I'll take a break from here. But thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Uh, I guess if you like watching me do this, whether it's through the stream, which I don't recommend because my upload speed isn't good, or if you're watching this on YouTube. If it's on YouTube, maybe, you know, do the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. Uh, you know, maybe give me suggestions if I do more either six. I like the panels of the 6 fan art challenge to just, to a degree, keep doing it, but just new characters. But yeah, otherwise, thank you for stopping by, and I will hopefully see you again some other time. You know, I'll see you in the future. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves, you know, during these times. And I'll see you again. Bye.